Hello, Dr. Crosby. I'm sorry this is not the best quality of my voice, but I've been sick for 3 days. I thought it would be better by now, but it's not. But I'm going to try my hardest. And sorry, I don't look as professional with this sickness I've had. So the coworker that I chose to work with is Josh Parker. He is a 2-year social studies teacher. This is his 2nd year with us. Newly married about a year ago. Now he has a baby. And he's been our assistant basketball coach for the past 2 years, and now he's just been promoted to our head basketball coach. So he's got a lot going on, but he also is working on his master's. So he's got a lot of things going on his plate right now. But whenever I met with him, we just discussed some things that he would like to work on as a 2-year teacher. There's all sorts of things that he wants to do, but I think classroom management is always a big one, but he's got that under control. I'm very proud of him. I've told him before, like, how awesome it is to watch that relationship that he's built with those kids, and they get it, and he gets it. So that was not the area that we wanted to work on. He decided that it would be student engagement. Him teaching social studies, of course, is an area that's kind of hard as a whole, unless you are able to do some more hands-on live action kind of stuff. Not all kids are into social studies. Like myself, I love social studies, but I don't want to have to remember the facts and the dates and everything. Just let me learn about it, So he does consider that as one of the areas. Excuse me. But in our first little session, of course, we got to know each other. I haven't had a whole lot of interactions with him other than just, congratulating him on games and those kind of things, and speaking to him in the hallway, and maybe just a few things off and on, but we just got to know each other. And he shared with me what his concern was. So as we kept talking, I really wanted to ask him, what does student engagement look like to him? Because we all have a different opinion of what that looks like, where some people think it's kids are answering 24/7, where, I think student engagement sometimes is just students writing down information that they find important as well. So we talked about that. And we came up with some measurable goals. Would be something that we would kind of look at in our next little sessions as we keep moving forward. What that would look like to maybe just an example, from 40% of the students being engaged to 75% of the students being engaged in the classroom. Some questions that we would ask, I kind of asked and we talked about were what are some types of engagement that you can see? Of course, discussion is always the biggest one. Writing, and then even collaborating with others. And then we also talked about when are they most engaged? Why is that? Who's not engaged? Is it always the same kids, or does it vary? So there was just some things that we just talked about in that first little session. The second session that we will work on together would be a classroom observation. It would be non-evaluative. It would be where I would be just going and watching him and the kids' reactions and interactions with each other throughout the time, and trying to figure out, when is the engagement low? Is it mostly low in large group, or is it if he did a small group during that time, or is it just an individual setting, where I don't really think it's individual, because if he has a conversation with the kids, they respect him, as what I've seen in the past, just in the hallway, different times, basketball court, whatever, they respond to him very well there. So that would be something that we look at. So we would kind of look at behavioral. Are they on task, or is it cognitive? Are they struggling, thinking deeply about the stuff that they're talking about? Or maybe is it just emotional? They're just not motivated, which is a lot of times with high school kids sometimes, that we see that the interest level is, where is it at? Does he have too much lecture going on? Is there a student voice? Is the information too easy and they get bored? Or is it too hard? And then also, is it relevant to the kids? So those will be some things that we would look at in that second little session that we have with each other. And in my research of looking up some engagement strategies, I used that Edtopia. They had lots of good stuff there. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of it, but the first one I would do with that Socratic seminar, they explained it in another way, like a sketch note taker. So what that would be is you would put papers around the classroom, and the kids would actually be up and moving in classroom conversation. So while he was giving information, they could take the notes on the wall if they chose to. They didn't have to. Some kids could still stay at their desk. So they're drawing using words or symbols, those kinds of things. So that could help your multi-language learners, your visual learners, and even give them a time to do a gallery walk to walk around, and then they have to explain their answers, like, why did you use that picture? What was your purpose for that? The other little strategy that I would offer to him would be hexagonal thinking. So basically you take hexagons, have the multi-sides, and this moves past that memorization side of things. So you have different terms or concepts or people on there, or events, or even an idea that's happened. This works really great with social studies from my reading, but they would have to put up those pieces to each other, and then they'd have to explain, like, why did you put that piece to that piece? So that it makes relationships. They have to argue their ideas, or even think historically, like, why did you come up with that idea? But they arrange them by touching them and represent the connections. They must be able to justify and explain them. They can't just say, well, I just wanted to. No, you're going to talk about it. So there's some more engagement there. So they're going to have to talk. It's not just writing down some notes. No single answer is just right. That's the beauty of it too. They can make, they just have to be a really seasoned connection. They have to understand, why did you put those two pieces together? They can move the pieces around. Somebody else could come in and move another one and say, no, I want to put this here, and they can talk through it. And then they contribute their ideas while they're doing all that. It's not just recalling facts. And it gives students some ownership, or some of the key things that I got from that hexagonal thinking. So those were two strategies that I introduced to him. And then we had to look at, then we would come back together after he has done one or both of those strategies, and we would let him reflect, just let him talk and tell what worked or what didn't work, or maybe some pieces of things that he did or didn't like, and how his students responded, and what we would go from there. But when it comes to the last little part of our thing, we had to do the ALS, Adult Learning Strategies with Knowles. So the first one was problem-centered. Adults are problem-centered according to Knowles, and I totally agree with that, because I love to figure out a problem sometimes. But identifying the problem was the student engagement. So he identified that as his problem, and then we discussed the solutions on some things that we could do to help him. We kept it relevant, practical, so those things would increase that change, hopefully, that he can make in that classroom to make it better for his students. And then he can try those new strategies and see if they work. And they may work this semester, but they might not work next semester. And that's something that he's learning as well, figuring out that, and even from class to class, things don't always work from class to class. So he's learning to adapt to that change, which is great for him. He's going to do a good job. I'm proud of him. But and then the next one would be reflective practice and the self-direction. So adults are self-directed learners, and they bring that prior experience. So we even talked about, so, hey, what are some things that worked in your past, or maybe whenever you were doing your high school stuff, because he's not that old. He's just a young baby, that's what I call him. But he gave some ideas of things that worked for them, but let him reflect first. Me not telling him everything, just let him talk and talk through all of that. Was really great to see, and let him talk about when did he see students mostly engaged, and looking at those past moments. Was it hands-on, or was it those discussion times, or maybe it was even like choice-based. They were able to choose what they wanted to do. And then we moved to talking more about, there would be like structure more intentionally, part of your lessons. Even we talked about, like, whenever he has to do the lecture part, which is part of history, of course, maybe put a break in there in his PowerPoint of, hey, let's ask a question, or something to remind him that he needed to break up that lecture and not just keep on talking forever and ever, because that loses your kids, of course. And then hopefully with that reflective practice, or the self-direction, that gives him that point for him to have that increased buy-in and implementation. But it helps him find some ownership in the situation. It's not just the kid's fault that they're not engaged. What can we do as an educator to make it better? Hopefully it'll build his confidence as he works through it, and then he's able to anchor those new strategies excuse me, into his familiar practices as a whole, and that can help him be that reflective teacher that will increase his learning, as well as his help with his students with their learning too. So I'm excited to see how he uses these two strategies, or whichever one he uses, but he's like a sponge. He's soaking it all in. He listens, and we think about stuff together. He's taught me some stuff too while we were talking about some engagement with kids as well. So I'm looking forward to this opportunity to keep on learning with him too. So sorry about my voice again. I did just have a whisper yesterday. It was here it goes again. So, but thank you and have a good night.